in 1967, that was very true. And then Elie Wiesel wrote Night, and that changed everything. But in terms of people actually capturing the stories, it took 25 more years until Spielberg did Schindler's List. So what you're saying, it took 2 generations. Here we have the displacement of the Sephardi Jews, a minority within the Jewish minority. There are roughly 750,000 Jews in South Florida. And we're not counting snowbirds because that puts it well over 1 million. 50,000 are Sephardi. They're the minority. And so it's taken them 2 generations to get their voice. It's exactly the same. And what we need to do, while we still have these incredible voices, to capture them. And so a few of you here, maybe many of you,
participate in your presentation. And the first thing that comes to my mind is an incident that happened when I came from Egypt. It was following the 6-day war. And after many tribulation, we ended up in New York. And in the elevator, I meet a neighbor. And she tells me, "So you are our new neighbor?" I said, "Yes." Said, "Where are you coming from?" I said, "From Egypt." She took one step back and she said, "Are you an Arab?" I said, "No, I am Jewish." So she starts speaking to me in a language that I didn't understand, of course. It sounded like German. And she told me, "You don't understand Yiddish?" I said, "No." And then she says, "How could you be Jewish?" Well, it's true. How could I be Jewish if I hadn't eaten any latkes before that time? I didn't know what matzo ball were, and worst crime, I ate rice on Passover. Now, talking about Passover, I'm thinking, and every time at Passover I have the same, feeling. Of course I'm Jewish, because I wasn't saved once, but twice from Egypt. Well, my name is Sarine de Pichotto. I was Egyptian by birth. I am Jewish by faith. I am French by education. I am Italian by marriage, and I am American by choice. So let me explain to you. It may sound like a big mishmash, but it is really very familiar and very common into all the Jews that were in Egypt. Let's first explain a little bit about the nationality. Jews in Egypt have been there since time immemorial. Just think about the Rambam. But in spite of the time that they spent there, they were never awarded the Egyptian nationality. It doesn't come automatically because you were born in Egypt. As a matter of fact, I'm married into an Italian Jewish family that has been in the Middle East for centuries. They still had their Italian passport. They still had to renew their residence every few years. Egypt does not believe or does not follow the rule of the place of birth. Place of birth does not decide about your nationality. It's the bloodline that decides about your nationality. So how come I was Egyptian? My grandfather, who came from Damascus, went to England, came back to Egypt, it's a different story, was a doctor, and he was awarded the Egyptian nationality because of his work and dedication to the country. So we had a very a very special status of Egyptian, of being Egyptian. Now, it of course played there was a other side of the medal after, a few years, of course, as I would go and explain later on. So this explains how I am Egyptian, but how do I claim that French is my mother tongue? Well, Jews in Egypt, I think, in their seeking the best education for their children, did not send their children to public schools. They sent them to French school, French or British. And for that reason, we spoke French at home. I knew about the French history, the French culture, without ever stepping, 1 foot in France. And the French school were really a wonderful place because there weren't only Jews going there. We had Muslim, we have Christian, we have Armenian, Greek, French people. It was a beautiful melting pot. And the friendship that we had established at that time really stood the test of time, of war, of distance. Until now, we have still Muslim friends, Christian friends that we keep contact with. I wish that the world would take this as an example to know that how easy it is to live in harmony in spite of religion and political idea. Well, so nationality, Italian, French. Next thing is my Jewishness in Egypt. Jews came to Egypt, Jews lived in Egypt for a long time, of course, but they came in the beginning of the 19th century with the opening of the Suez Canal.
And in Rachel's case, we're talking about 1987, you said you left? 87. That's not so long ago. That's 30 odd years ago. And yet, our children do not learn these stories in our Jewish schools. Why is it so Eurocentric? Why do we learn about Rambam and Maimonides and we don't learn the story about Egyptian Jewry or Persian, Iranian Jewry? Why is our education failing us? Because Kalal Yisrael means everyone. So let me just take you for 2 minutes in terms of Florida history. The first Jews to come to the United States did not come to New York in 1654. The third governor of St. Augustine in 1570 was a converso. The George Washington of Florida, the George Washington, the person who made Florida a state, his name is David Ibn Yuli. He's a Sephardi Jew. He's the first Jew ever to sit in the United States Senate. How come we don't learn in our Florida history books about the first Jew to sit in the Senate? The Jew who's Sephardi, the Jew whose family was thrown out of Spain and went to Morocco, and then from Morocco to Gibraltar, and then to St. Thomas, whose father Moses buys 50,000 acres in Gainesville to set up a proto-kibbutz before the word kibbutz was even invented, and taught Hebrew. His son is the founder of Florida. Why do we not learn this in Jewish schools, let alone in our public schools? So what this book does, it gives you a taste from the voices of the people, as you saw in the video and today with us, about this rich history. And I appeal to you to share it with your families, to bring it to the synagogue, to bring it to Jewish schools. So let me just read one last paragraph from the book.